Previously on the Game On podcast.
For movies made about you, who is playing you?
Danny DeVito.
Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
Hi and welcome to episode 2 of the Game On podcast. My name's Pete Matthews. I'm one of your hosts today, and today is actually World Inbox Zero Day.
Hi Pete, Malcolm Ashwood. World Inbox Zero. I don't think I'd ever pass that particular day. I think I'd fail that day dismally.
Neither would I. Unfortunately, I have too many emails to go through at any one time.
Well, for me, it's probably Facebook Messenger and that sort of stuff as well. So it's a bit of both.
Around the grounds.
So to kick off today's topics, the start of the Sheffield Shield, Malcolm.
Oh, look, as a South Australian supporter, it's the most exciting day of the year because it's the day when we're equal top. And let's face it, as a Redback supporter, that generally doesn't last for too long. So.
Yep. Sheffield Shield this coming week at Karen Rolton Oval, yes.
Playing Victoria,
Yep.
So for the David Hooks Shield. It's a trophy both teams take pretty seriously in terms of that regard. The first Shield game, WA New South Wales, just about to be completed as we speak, and Western Australia are going to come out winners, comfortable winners there in their first game at home and on the third day. And they've bowled New South Wales out pretty cheaply in both innings, and they only need 85 to win, and they're 1 for 50 as we speak.
Yep. What's the one thing we need to obviously do to bring home a win?
It was interesting hearing Jason Gillespie tonight talking about we've got to improve our slips catching. I agree with that, but I think we've just got to actually, I think it more goes back to batting and some partnerships. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, for South Australia. Certainly
getting off to a good start is the key, isn't it? You know, you get out the blocks, build a couple of partnerships, and away you go.
We need Henry Hunt, who had a very good year last year, tied with Travis Jean for the Victoria. They both play against each other this game, obviously, and for the Sheffield Shield Player of the Year last year. Mm-hmm. And we need him and Jake Weatherall to get us away to a start. Yep.
And Alex Carey, coming back when he's not on national duties, of course.
Yeah, I think he'll bat 5, and Travis will bat 4, Carter at 3. I think Jake Lehman will bat 6. So, we'll wait to see tomorrow.
Sort of building a nice little squad there, and hopefully they can get it done and get the season off to a good start.
Yeah, and then Drew, who made 100 in the last Shield game last year, isn't playing. Now, I admit I haven't managed to find out around the traps whether he is injured or hasn't been picked. If he hasn't been picked, I'm dumbfounded.
Sure.
So
we'll keep an eye.
Might know that hopefully before the end of the show.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one for sure.
The big news of the week, and you being a basketball man, is the Adelaide 36ers win in the Suns in America.
Unbelievable. They have a successful blitz series here in Australia. Had some pretty good solid hitouts, and they head over there as a bit of a pre-season trip, and all of a sudden find themselves up against a star-studded lineup. You know, it is the American pre-season over there, so you would have thought that they might have, trundled out a couple of their project players to see, but no, they had their full of their best stars. I saw a little stat the other day which was absolutely crazy. Obviously, Australia creating sporting history with the first team to win against an NBA team. but their entire payroll, $270 million. And the NBL salary cap is 1.7, which is absolutely astonishing. I mean, it's almost that Moneyball type setup, isn't it?
Well, it's mind-boggling. It's almost the equivalent of an amateur league side defeating the Crows,
yes,
or Port. It's along those lines in terms of that. It's an extraordinary result.
You get some people over in America, especially commentators, saying, this is the second best league in the world. We've probably proved it during Olympics and trials and friendlies and any other matches that they've got going on. And I think they just went out there and freewheeled and unbelievably played perfectly.
Yeah, look, it was obviously a free-flowing game. I think it was 134, 124.
Correct, yes, It was indeed. Randall, the second, 35 points with some absolutely massive threes
will
going down the straight.
Get him back. Will he then get signed up over there? It's
seen on the news tonight. He's spoken with a half a dozen NBA teams since that. Robert Franks, 32 points as well. CJ Burton coming on, obviously in 2021, has obviously got the gel and the mix right. Obviously, in the last couple of years, like with every other sport, COVID has sort of made it a little bit hard with getting that combinations right and gelling quite well. The Suns, their win-loss last year was one of the best in the NBA.
Yes.
So it certainly is a significant win, and obviously they're playing Oklahoma next, I think, in the next day or two, Friday morning at about 10:30 a.m. Adelaide time.
It'd be good if they can back up and at least be really competitive again.
Absolutely. I mean, the world's at their feet at the moment. And then obviously once they get back, a week later, Thursday the 13th of October versus the Tasmanian Jack Jumpers at 7 p.m. at the Entertainment Centre. You'd really like them to start on fire there as well.
Big time.
Fantastic. Moving on, AFL Masters recently here in Adelaide. Malcolm, you're involved?
Yeah, I'm involved in commentating the games. Look, absolutely huge success. 1,232 participants. So that's your age groups right through from over 35s, 40s, 45s, 50s, 55s, 60s. A lot of female participation as well.
Wow.
So it was huge. I certainly know West Adelaide Footy Club, if they'd had their way, that Western Australia wouldn't been allowed to go home, that the bar trade at Richmond was virtually...
ticking over nicely.
Yes, way up.
Yep. And we were successful in a few of those grades?
Yes, over 35s and over 40s. South Australia had a win in the men's. But look, the main winner of the week was participation. People making friendships right around the country. And there was one classic division where Western Australia and Northern Territory both didn't quite have enough players to enter that grade. So they combined.
Yep.
So the players only met before the first game and they ended up winning that division.
Oh, wow.
So that was a huge result. But the big winner for me, it was interesting, we did do a few interviews along the way, and was mental health. That was the overwhelming bit. We were talking about the real scary bit of country football at the moment, with the leagues winding up and the importance of that. And Dean Renfrey played his first footy in 14 years. Dean, former Nord and South Adelaide player, played in the over 60s, and he just said, he had a blast. And him and his wife played as well, and they've both already said, they're up for Maroochydore next year.
Yeah, and obviously, getting everybody together and actually having a national competition was great for everybody involved, and obviously, the big winner, as you said, was people that hadn't played for a while and got involved.
And the economy. Let's be honest, South Australia, all of a sudden to have 1,200 people out and about. Restaurants, a lot of them did the wine tours, all that sort of thing, is huge. And after COVID, I think 2 years of COVID, it probably did help in terms of building it up, and it was a really big event. Yeah, huge success.
Great. We're heading up to Gold Coast in 2023. I'm sure we'll send a pretty good contingent up there to try and back up their success this year. All right, moving on, we're going to have a little break now, but coming up after the break, we're going to have a talk about the trade period, which is a big subject, so we're looking out for that one. And the Crows move to Thebarton, maybe hitting a little bit of a snag.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Welcome back to the Game On podcast.
Yes, so the trade period, as we said, it is heating up. Like the words around it looks like Port Adelaide and with the Jason Horne-Francis is going to be a three-way trade involving West Coast. And look, what's been proposed so far as I'm concerned, Port Adelaide and North Melbourne are the winners and West Coast are the losers out of it. What's been proposed so far, that Port move up, they swap 8 and 2, and there's other draft swaps, and there'll be a future as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm a bit bemused by it, that if that does get done, I think Port have done very well. And people doubting Jason Horne-Francis, look, I saw him enough the year before playing for South. You get him back here, get him switched on. I think he will be absolutely huge pickup for Port Adelaide.
Two ways of thinking about it. Are Port, doing the shotgun approach where they're literally approaching anybody and everybody? I mean, obviously they're approaching some pretty good players along the way. Or is it a little bit of a desperate move to somewhat save Hinkley's career?
Maybe. It's probably a bit of both. Look, the word was around, I reckon probably 3 months or so ago, that Port thought they had Dunkley. Mm-hmm. Then that fell through. Then they approached Graham from Richmond, but then all of a sudden they managed to find out that, hey, no, Jason Horne-Francis comes in the equation here. Yep. So they sort of changed their own wavelength. So, it's big. Look, the Crows are going to get Rankin.
Yes.
Look, he's an extraordinary talent. Hopefully he gets fit enough to go burst in the midfield as well. Him and Rochelle both interchange with burst to give the Crows that desperately need a bit of class through the midfield, because they've got a lot of honest battlers.
I think Darren Burgess is the master at getting those type of players right, and I'm sure he'll have a pretty big pre-season.
Yeah, you would hope so, because I think the Crows' midfield is just too similar. Lee, Keys, Laird, Berry, Sloan.
Yep.
Great tries, but where's the dash?
Would Graham, I mean, I know he said he's probably going to stay at Richmond. It looks like that's the way it's going to. Would he have been that missing piece? Maybe.
I don't think so. I think he's more. I think he's a bit better in terms of the in and unders than what the Crows have got. But I don't think he would have been the dash, explosive pace.
Whereas Horne-Francis would have ideally suited the Crows as well.
Huge.
Yeah, and he's picked obviously Port and Port only, which. I don't quite agree with.
Yeah, nor do I.
I understand a player's got a goal to get home. There are two teams in the town. I'm not advocating for Port or the Crows on this occasion. I mean, if you're a player that's playing in Western Australia, South Australia, up in Queensland, and you've got an opportunity to head home to Victoria, you've got a plethora of clubs to choose from, and occasionally it does seem that Carlton and Richmond and Essendon, they seem to be the ones that generally attract the Collingwood, attract the big ones. But on this occasion, I think nominating a club when you've still got a year to go on your contract is a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's rich. I think it's a bit rich. I think Geelong are the big winners out of today.
Absolutely.
Bose has nominated them. Now, whether he measures up to the mark or not, but they get pick 7 with it.
Yep.
Look, whatever we think of Geelong, the way they've managed to stagger their player payments and taught them all the buy-in to reduce. They're the big winners out of that.
Absolutely. And Geelong have done it well for years. Yes. I mean, if you're setting up a club and you're trying to get the best out of not only your playing group, your coaching group, but it's really about front of house. And as we've seen, if you don't get your front of house right, it can be detrimental to the playing list, especially going on. Also, some of the deals that have gone through so far, Carl Amon from Port, obviously a free agent, nominated Hawthorn a long time ago. Bobby Hill, GWS to Collingwood. Tim Taranto, GWS to Richmond. Jaden Hunt, which was a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I think he's important to Melbourne, so I'm a bit surprised with that one.
Yep, absolutely. Blake Acres from Freo to Carlton.
Carlton, yep.
McStay obviously nominated Collingwood. Jones to the Bulldogs. And probably the most interesting one as of yesterday, Tuesday at 5 p.m, was Melbourne and Port swapping some picks. Port giving back 33, 43 and 53 for 27. I'm assuming that's in lieu of trying to get the Horne-Francis deal done.
Who knows? Yeah, that's probably something you need to be in the inner sanctum to actually have it in front of you, so it actually makes more sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Zane Cordy today, Darcy Tucker, Griffin Logue, and some pick swaps between Brisbane and GWS sort of rounds out today. I mean, obviously we've got 10 days of this, and a lot of the big fish probably won't get done until the back end. So we'll watch this one with some great interest.
Yeah, it's almost like, we'll follow it sort of meekly till the last hour.
Absolutely. And usually they're the ones that get done very, very quickly. Excellent. Malcolm, the move to Thebarton, the Crows obviously a couple of weeks ago said that's our preferred option. We're going there. But in the last couple of days, obviously a little bit of public consultation has changed that thinking a little bit.
Maybe. I did hear the mayor interviewed on with Rowie tonight, and it was actually good to hear a councillor talking common sense, because I think, personally, Adelaide City Council knocking back what was really a Godfather deal to them to basically bail them out financially on the aquatic centre. For mine, that was an IKEA start your car moment, and that they were the big winners. I'm not convinced that Adelaide were. At least with Thebarton, there'll be a social base, and you've got to. You can't not have a social base with a home base. So, I think Adelaide out of that way of it, I think they've escaped a bullet, and I just think, personally, I would have had a vote of no confidence in Adelaide City Council. That's my own opinion.
Sure. A lot of the successful clubs have their own social club. They have their own gathering point. Yes, it's not right next to the Oval, which you would like, but neither is Port Adelaide. I think it's important. I mean, the Crows had the Shed back in the day, and that seemed to be when they were firing the most. It seemed that everyone was reasonably happy with what was going on.
The Shed was great. After a game, you wandered in there. It was quite amusing at one stage that the players weren't meant to be mingling, and you still did.
Yep.
Rocket came over to me one night and said, "This is ridiculous. We're not meant to be talking." It was just crazy.
Yep.
But anyway.
And obviously Thebarton becomes a multi-purpose venue. Obviously gets their SNFL teams there, gets their AFLW team there, which is a little bit disappointing, I suppose, that at the moment, especially with the AFLW, they have been sharing it around the grounds. There's been, I think, a game at Glenelg, a game at Sturt. I'm sure there'll be a game at Norwood at some stage. It's nice to share that wealth around, I suppose, for the clubs.
Yeah, it might be speaking a little bit out of school here, but I know from talking to a couple of the clubs that financially they did really well out of the Amateur League finals.
Yep.
And bar and catering-wise, far more than an AFLW game. So it's a little bit...
It's a bit of a balancing act, isn't it? Yeah.
It's not
I saw some vision online on Facebook. I think it was the Port District's PAC, and it was packed. It was like an SNFL crowd.
Oh, there were 5,200 people through Norwood for the day.
That's insane. That's fantastic.
And it was a great result.
Yep. And that's what local amateur footy is all about.
Yeah. Soccer, mate. World game. Man United versus Man City. What a scoreline.
That is what you want to see when you go to a soccer game, or the World's game, I should say. 6-3. Two players scoring hat-tricks for City. Haaland, third home game, hat-tricks.
Quickest by an absolute mile for 3 hat-tricks. I think it's 8 games. I think the nearest was either 42 or 62. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
Yep.
But yeah, just incredible.
That's insane. And obviously the EPL is the measuring stick, I suppose, especially in England. But, coming back to Adelaide United here, they're starting off their pre-season. They've had 3 or 4 games so far with a 3-1 result, win-loss result.
First game this weekend against Wellington.
Correct. Wellington Phoenix. They've got 3 games on the road to start the season.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. You'd like to either halve those games or get away with definitely a couple of wins. That would certainly make the season start off with a positive start, and then they can go on from there.
Very quick mention, I admit I'm a championship person in England. I'm a Queen's Park Rangers fan, and QPR, the mighty R's, had a win overnight against Sheffield United, who were the leaders. So, yeah, great night. And QPR have had 2 away wins in the last 4 days. So, yeah, the R's are up to 4th. So, yeah.
And I'm a little bit of a Chelsea supporter, so from that point of view, we'll keep an eye out for those teams throughout the year, and we'll report on some of their games. Yeah. All right, we're going to head off to another break. Stick with us. We've got a special guest from Tennis SA, Dylan Hicks, coming up for 5 minutes in the clubhouse.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. 5 good minutes in the clubhouse.
Welcome back to 5 minutes in the clubhouse. With the summer season fast approaching, we thought it'd be the best time to talk about some tennis and some tennis events through Tennis SA. Dylan Hicks from Tennis SA and his role as the State League Coordinator has been kind enough to give us his time and a bit of a rundown of what's happening this week and this weekend, especially up in the Riverland. Welcome, Dylan.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
It's good to be here.
Fantastic. What events have you had going on this week and obviously leading into the summer?
Yeah, so we're actually coming off quite a busy time in South Australia with some national events. We kicked off at the back end of September with a couple of International Federation junior tournaments where it was the best 18 unders in Australia competing in a knockout tournament, which then followed into our High Court Nationals, which is our best 12 and 14 under players in Australia competing for a national title, which we completed last Sunday. Yep. Even having a couple of South Australians be crowned champions in the boys 14 doubles, which is good to see.
Fantastic. Who have we got to look out for in the future?
Oh, there's plenty coming up through the ranks, but something to look out for is Philip Fantasia from Golden Grove Tennis Club, and we've also got some other players coming up in the ranks too. So Billy Williams was another one of those players from Tea Tree Gully Tennis Club. So they actually faced off each other in the doubles final with some other players from a different state. So it was actually a good spectacle to watch, which came down the wire. So that was actually quite cool.
And you were mentioning, some other events that have been sort of completed this week. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. So we're lucky enough to be up in the Riverland this week and heading into next with a bit of a Riverland swing. So we had a junior open series held at Barmera Tennis Club over the weekend, which has then led into the Foundation Cup. The Foundation Cup is a pathway for our best regional tennis players in the state. We have 6 regions that compete in this event. They compete in a teams event and an individual event. In the teams event, they represent their region. And then in the individual event, they play for the opportunity to win their spot into our regional state team, which then competes against other teams in the Queensland Teams Carnival in Queensland in December. And they play against the best regional kids from Queensland and then some of the best kids from New South Wales, Queensland City, and also the NT. So we have about 170 players up here competing over 4 days. Wow. And it's really exciting to see over 23 courts.
I suppose with COVID over the last couple of years, these type of events have sort of been put on the back burner. Would that be right?
Well, in South Australia, we've actually been really, really lucky that we haven't ever had to cancel Foundation Cup. We were able to put on the event with a lot of protocols in the past, obviously separating the players when they're off court, but we were able to go ahead and play these events the last 2 years. Unfortunately, the state events did get cancelled. So the kids that won their way through to the state opportunity were unable to play that, but we still put on a local opportunity for them to play, and so they still had something to play for. Okay,
well, it's good to get them outside, especially during that period.
Absolutely.
You also talked about this weekend up at the Riverland. We've got the State League All-Stars match. Is this the first time this event's been run?
No, it's the second time this event's been run. So the first time we ran it was the same time this year, last year, and it was held in Port Lincoln. So that was the first time we ran this event. It was an idea that kind of came to us at Tennis SA, and also we had Port Lincoln Tennis Association at the time were really interested in hosting an event up there which brought high-profile players to their region, and we came up with the idea to bring 8 of the best players locally, which is play in our state league, to play with local players from the region. So I guess promoting our best players in the state that play in our highest league, competing with the best players from that region and promoting tennis in those regional areas, and I guess giving a reason for the younger players to aspire to play tennis in the future and potentially, play in our state league one day, which obviously we would like to see.
And I noticed that here the teams were announced on the 21st of September, so that's a couple of weeks ago, but just going through some of the names and some of the clubs, it looks like you've got a diverse range of players that are from almost from each club there. Who's the one to look out for? Who's going to set the world on fire this year?
So I would be saying, so from the women, probably up the top there, you've got Sydney Crombie from Seacliff Tennis Club. Mm-hmm. She won the Player of the Year last year, so she was the strongest female in that competition for the previous season.
Yes.
She also was in the team for Seacliff that became the runners-up in the grand final last season, and unfortunately for Seacliff, they only lost that in the match tie-break in the last doubles, which came down to the wire. So wow. They're looking pretty strong as well this season to go all the way.
Great for spectators when it's that close.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of the best final series we've probably seen in a long time. But they did come across Glenlee Tennis Club, and in the women's space, they've won the last 3 state league grand finals. So they are a hard team to beat. And have a very strong lineup. So
fantastic.
And then in the State League All-Stars for the men at the top, we've got Ashwin Vijay Aragavan, who represents Teedree Gully Tennis Club. So he is an ex-Davis Cup player for India, and he's moved over to South Australia, and he would be one of our top players in South Australia now, and he captains Teedree Gully Tennis Club. So they were lucky enough to claim their first state league title last year in 17 years. So it was quite the feat for them to get that win after so long not being at the top. So some really good players there to keep an eye out on.
And what's the format for the event up in Renmark this year?
Yeah, so it's a combination of the local players from the Riverland Tennis Association. So we have players competing from clubs from Barmera, Cobdogla, Renmark, Loxton and Berry. We open up with a local singles for the men and the women, and they play a one-set tiebreaker at 6-all, which then leads into All-Stars matches where the State League players will play in a men's and women's top rubber and a second rubber, which they'll play 2 sets in a match tiebreak, and then this opportunity to mix in the state league players with the regional players. So they'll play a same gender doubles, which will be a 1-set to 6 with a sudden death deuce, and then they'll get to play in a mixed as well. So it'll be one state league player competing with a regional player for that title of, I guess, our second All-Stars title, which we're excited to see what the outcome of that will be.
And just having a little bit of a read about things, it's a random draw of players, isn't it? So you might be playing against a teammate, or it's not the same teams as last year, obviously.
Correct. Yeah. So how the teams are made up is that there's a team red and there's a team blue, mm-hmm. and the regional players and also the state league players don't know who they're competing for until the night prior. So we actually have an event called Evening with the Stars, where their teams are revealed the night before, the captains are announced, and they all get to know each other less than 24 hours out before playing with each other. So it's a bit of a different setup, but it's exciting, I guess, for the players not knowing who they're representing until the night before they play.
Almost like a Davis Cup draw there, where you draw them out the day before.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good idea.
And it's always good because there's people they've played with before, and there's people they've never played with before, and seeing those matchups sometimes come together is exciting to say, because you wouldn't normally see in a state league season where they kind of go to the clubs and play with the people that they normally choose to play with. Sometimes we see rivals playing with each other on the same team, which is great to see.
Absolutely. And just to finish off on the State League All-Stars, Community Day, Saturday, the 8th of October, kicking off at around about 9:30 a.m?
Yeah, that's correct. So we've got a Red Bull Challenge starting in the morning. So one thing that Tennis SA have been working really hard on is getting out to schools and running tennis school carnivals. And the next thing that we look to is to try and link those carnivals back to the clubs to get those kids picking up a racket and playing for their club locally. So we've had all those school carnivals just during this school term, and we're hoping we have a good turnout on the day of those schools represented at their clubs in the Red Bull Challenge.
And then obviously the State League matches commencing at around about 11:30 with a fun day to run all through the day. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. We'll have matches kicking off at 11:30, and they'll play through with drinks and the barbecue, and we'll have music on, and hopefully there's a great vibe down there, and that will play through the day, and then into the night we might have some extra tennis activities out on court afterwards. Absolutely.
Well, you heard it, folks. Head on out if you're looking for a good day out. Head out to Renmark and participate in the events that Tennis SA's got running this weekend. While I've got you here, Dylan, obviously the summer season is definitely around the corner. I'm starting this week or next week. We've got the State League competition. What are the teams and the clubs to look out for this year?
Yeah, so this year we're gone regularly from a 14-round season to a 12-round season this year. And in the men's, we've got 7 teams, and in the women's, we've got 8 teams. Mm-hmm. In the men's, we've got our consistent teams, which are in Glenlee and Tea Tree Gully, which are very consistent in normally making finals, and they come with quite a strong lineup. Tea Tree Gully will be looking to defend their title, but there's also some other teams in there. For example, Seaside made their way to the final last year with quite a young team. They only lost it in the doubles, so it'd be interesting to see if they come strength to strength and make the top 4 again. Mm-hmm. And in the women, we're probably looking at, as we always do, is Glenlee and Seacliff have a great rivalry with each other, playing the last 2 premierships against each other, with Glenlee winning. Seacliff have retained the same list that they had last season, yep, with Glenlee losing their number 1 in Olivia Lay. So she's a very strong, consistent player. She's now moved to New South Wales, so it's made movement for, I guess, other players to step up. And it'll be interesting to see how they go this season. And it's great to see for a first time that we've got 8 teams and 8 clubs represented in the Women's State League from originally we had 6. So Fantastic. It's great to see an increase in players in that league as well and clubs represented.
Excellent. And who are the defending premiers? Who are the ones to try and go back to back or back to back to back?
Well, so we've got Tea Tree Gully. So they're the defending for the men. Yep. As I said earlier, they won their first title in 17 years last season. So they'll be looking to try and snag another one, I'm sure. And their list is very similar to the list that they had last year. And they've got Ashwin leading the team there at Tea Tree Gully, one of our State League All-Stars, and also one of our other All-Stars, Dale Nixon, is also on that Tea Tree Gully list. And in the women, Glenlee claims 3 in a row. Yep. They'll definitely be looking for their 4th, but I can see Seacliff looking to try and overturn the odds this year, and they get one themselves.
Well, thanks for joining us, Dylan. Certainly, if you're out and about on a Saturday and looking for some good tennis, there's definitely going to be a tennis court near you that will be playing some top tennis. If you want to see what matches are where and when, obviously looking at the Tennis SA's website for any of that information.
Great. No, we look forward to seeing as many people out there as possible.
Thank you very much, Dylan. And just a little bit of a shout out, obviously, to your communications and public relations manager, Bree, for setting up this interview at last minute for us. We greatly appreciate it.
No worries. I'll definitely pass that on to her. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thanks, Pete. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
State League competition is about providing the best possible standard of competition that we can, and really providing an opportunity for our best players to compete against each other in a team-based format. And we do that through the State League as well as through the Junior State League that we provide for our best junior players.
Getting to be a part of State League, it's obviously one of the highest comp of tennis in South Australia, and I think it's a really good way to promote the sport.
I think State League's a great opportunity for younger players such as myself and even younger to really transition from Junior State League into a much tougher competition and really try and develop.
It's a great experience, and always, being around the team and, when people are involved and cheering for you, it's always a great experience, and it's fun to play that way.
It's great to be part of a team atmosphere, as it takes some of the individual pressure off, i.e. comparing to like a tournament or so. It's a great opportunity to give other people chances to play State League as well.
Well, team atmosphere is great. I've known a lot of these people for a long time, and you form really special bonds kind of playing state league together against other great competitors. Those rivalries that you have throughout the years, the matches that you play, you remember those for the rest of your life, and it's a great opportunity and privilege to play in the state league.
The support of statewide Super has been really great for the state league competition, and it means we've been able to take competition from strength to strength over a number of years, and we'll continue to do so into the future.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Happy days.
Welcome back. We've got Ollie Wines turning 28 this week. Pretty fair play, Malcolm. Let's go through some of these stats. Currently played 203 games, got a winning percentage of 58.13. His best record against any club is St Kilda. He has a 9-1 record. Certainly loves playing the Saints. His worst record is against Geelong, 4-11. Always tough down at Cardinia Park. I'm sure there's probably been a few games down there. John Cale Medal in 2001, best and fairest runner-up in 2016 and 2018, captain in 2019. Gavin Wanganeen Award in 13, 14, 15. Obviously the Brownlow in 2021, All-Australian in 2021 as well. Remarkable for such a young player.
He's had a very successful career. There was worries whether he'd stay originally.
Yep.
Had some family, tragedy along the way, but he's been he's a stalwart and a very good player.
Continues to be a great servant of the Port Adelaide Football Club. McLaren, 1985. Driver Alan Prost wins his first World Drivers' Championship.
It's a huge success. I think that was back when, I've got to be honest, I followed Grand Prix far more back then.
Yep.
Yeah, it was the era, and Prost was one of the guns.
And 1985 was the first year, actually, that Adelaide hosted the Adelaide Alive Grand Prix, and what a success that was.
Oh, it was huge.
1993, MJ, Michael Jordan, announces his retirement after 9 seasons and 3 championships.
But then returns, comes back 95 to win 3 more.
What can you say?
For me, look, he's my favourite ever basketballer. He's the GOAT for me. There's other people who debate that, LeBron, etc. and all that, but for me, it's Michael.
I think the classic case with some of these sports, like we talked about last week with the tennis in the a bit more of the Mount Rushmore, you've sort of got 4 choices to try and pick, and certainly you've got Michael Jordan in that category, and you're right, LeBron and Co certainly definitely up there as well. And in 2018, Rugby Championships, Australia comes back from 31-7 at half-time against Argentina to win, 45-34.
Been interested to know what they would have been paying on the tote at half-time on the betting margins.
Bet responsibly, of course. Yes. But that's a big turnaround. I mean, you just got to wonder what is being said at half-time to the players to have that kind of turnaround.
Certainly a huge comeback. So let's say, what have we got? In the second half, 38-3 in the second half, basically. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge turnaround. I think something like 5 tries and obviously converted from there. So well done to the Australian rugby team on that time, and hopefully they can have some success again in the near future.
Yeah.
Extra time. Big finish.
So, extra time, the big finish.
All right, let's roll into that. Keeping with the trade theme at the moment, we're going to do a little bit of deal or no deal. My first one to you, Lawrence Angwin.
Pick 7. Look, he had a lot of personal problems. It was a no deal for me, well and truly. And it was a no deal as far as James Fantasia was concerned. And James, at that stage, was the Adelaide recruiting officer. And he made Adelaide Football Club put that in 4 different spots in the minutes to make sure that he was covered. He foresaw the immense problems potentially coming.
And that was Adelaide's highest pick up until that point from memory as well.
That was Gary Ayres made that call.
Wow. Okay.
Yep, so for deal or no deal, Wayne Carey for pick 2 at 18.
31 at the time. Hindsight with a lot of these deal or no deals, especially the first 2 being a previous deal or no deal, probably wouldn't do it again. But,
You wouldn't, but for me, it was, I think, we've got to remember, Wayne Carey ran into a goalpost at Football Park. He kicked 8 the previous week, was just starting to absolutely dominate and be the Wayne Carey, the dominant player in the competition. And he was never the same after that. Now, how are you going to know that he was going to run into a goalpost?
2-18, maybe a touch expensive.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Again, back then, the point system wasn't included and future picks weren't included, so maybe it was the right deal at the time, but didn't work out, unfortunately.
He got the goalpost in a spot which the padding didn't protect it, so he was so unlucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Heading to deal or no deal again, but someone a little bit more recent, Jordan De Goey.
Look, for mine, he's such a huge risk. You really worry the football's not the question. Mm-hmm. It's what he's going to do off the ground, and people querying that, you lose sponsorship out of it. Mm-hmm.
Sydney are muted as one of the clubs that were keen on him for potentially pick 14, 17 and 35 to Collingwood for him. But as you said, there's that unknown factor that doesn't suit Sydney when you think about their particular Bloods culture. He may not fit into that, or it may straighten him out. It's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it?
But he is staying at Collingwood.
At Collingwood, exactly right. So we're not doing him.
Yep.
All right.
What's gone wrong with Essendon and North Melbourne? It's almost become a comedy. North Melbourne I feel a little bit more sorry for, but Essendon, oh my goodness.
And
wow.
you can almost throw Hawthorn into that mix right now as well. I mean, Essendon lose their CEO after a day. North Melbourne lose their coach after a fortnight or 2 or 3 weeks.
You've had an extraordinary week with Essendon. Like Kevin Sheedy, I'm sorry, as a person, and I'm sure you have as well, been on boards and committees, you sit in there and you debate it, but when you come out in the room, it's a united voice.
Front, yeah.
It was extraordinary behaviour. It was just bizarre and not on. All he did was immediately put more pressure on Brad Scott. And then this latest thing, it's just a lack of due diligence. It's just staggering.
I mean, if the media can find it in 2.5 minutes on a website, I'm very surprised that whoever was in charge of doing their due diligence and their background check, that they may not have picked that up. I mean, it just seems just staggering, and it's probably not what Essendon want right now, considering that there was all the hoo-ha over James Hird, is he, isn't he, and then the Sheedy, and then appointing Scott, and then this happens. It's just a perfect storm at the moment for Essendon. I mean, North Melbourne have obviously gone through it in the last 12 months, but yeah, where does that leave North Melbourne and Essendon?
Oh, look, I think got summed up. Danny Hansen on Facebook last night said, will Vladimir Putin be Essendon's number one ticket holder? As a joke, and you've got to admit, Essendon deserve that at the moment. Extraordinary.
We'll watch that one with great interest as the year unfolds. FLW, we want to make sure we promote the women's game as much as possible, but 2 big wins in the last 2 weeks for the Crows, 96 points and 60 points respectively.
I'm a massive fan of women's footy. It's been absolutely vital at community level for saving clubs, and we're back on the country bandwagon again, and thank goodness for women's footy.
Absolutely.
But I think they've just expanded too quick. I really do. There's not the quality of players for these teams, so many just too quickly. And we're getting, Port scored 3 points, another game
GWS by a point, yep.
They've just expanded too quick.
The first 2 years were, that experiment where, you just needed to get something up and running, and then it sort of blossomed in year 3 and year 4. You seemed to get the right mix. The games were tight. There was a lot more interest. And then, like you said, the expansion clubs has just sort of thinned out the talent pool just a little bit at this stage because the community clubs haven't had those players in their doors for long enough to help develop them into good players. I mean, certainly in 5 years' time, it's going to be a fantastic product, and I really can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
And the AFL season as it's going to develop, we'll certainly see that.
Look, and I admit, I still can't fathom why the AFLW, for me, where it was starting in February when everyone, you've gone through cricket, it's after Christmas, you start to crave footy. I reckon that was the perfect spot.
Yep.
As far as I'm concerned, if a National Reserves competition starts up, the SANFL, that is the way to go. Start in February, get some airtime, get some bases of some momentum, play some double headers at night.
And to finish off and close the show, once again, we promise to do better. We've survived 2 episodes so far. We've covered a range of topics today, and we look forward to what next week brings and get a couple of interviews with a couple of players from the country leagues, especially with what's going on up at the Mallee. And, we also want to continue to have a look at doing our Nord show in the next couple of weeks as well. Thanks, Malcolm. Thank you, everybody.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.